welcome back to the Historical Society podcast. I'm Cara, and this is Amanda.
Hello.
And we're on episode 19. Do you want to tell them what it's called?
Sure. This is called Ancient Civilizations and Women, Part 1, the Akkadian Empire.
Dun dun, bored.
So, well, before we begin, Cara and I didn't plan this, but we actually match, sort of. So, Cara, what's your hat?
My Seattle Mariners.
And I've got this West
blue and
Virginia. Blue and yellow. I've got a West Virginia. And every time I wear this shirt... What?
Does West Virginia have colors, or does it just happen to be blue?
I think it just happens to be... Actually, the Mountaineers, the West Virginia University colors are like colors? Navy and yellow. Yeah.
But that's not Navy.
No, it's not. It's not. Every time I wear this shirt, I always want to sing "Country Roads, take me home" or "Lead me home." I forget the words.
Rose?
Roads.
Oh, okay.
Not Rose. Country Rose. You smell so good.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Okay. So this episode, I was going to start. Okay, so we're back into exploring ancient history.
Yay!
And why are we doing this? Is it to give you a monotone soundtrack to fall asleep to at night? No.
Works for me.
Is it to bore you to death? No.
LOL.
Yeah. It's to help us understand our present culture. We are impacted by our world's history, whether we know that history or not.
Yeah. And I'm all for that. I just want it to be like a little more bullet pointy.
I'll do my best, Cara.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I know you do, and I know you will.
Yeah. I was just going to add our laws and our norms, our governmental structures, our society's views on women have all been shaped from the people who have come before us.
True.
Yeah. And I think it's important to think deeply, to ask questions, to understand why we believe what we do, and how we arrived at those beliefs about women and about the world at large.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. It's common sense.
Right.
Yep.
But I like to go into the weeds.
I know. I do
like
too.
to
The last time I did that, I got severe poison ivy.
You did. We have a tub of steroid cream upstairs. Dipping Cara's feet into it. I'm just kidding.
It was awful.
It was bad.
I thought I was never going to be better.
It was rough.
The itch was rooted in hell.
Oh. I was going to make some kind of Greek mythology reference, but I can't remember who goes down to the underworld. Orpheus?
Poison ivy.
Poison ivy, yeah. Poison Ipheus. Yeah. Okay. All right. So in the last episode, episode 12, Origins of the Patriarchy, part 3, Rise of the Patriarchies, we ended our discussion in the Bronze Age around 4500 BC to 3000 BC in Mesopotamia. I'll try to say things correctly.
I would say Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia. I guess I'm saying it like it's a Z. Mesopotamia. Yeah, I would trust Cara.
But I don't. Is that a thing though?
I probably just made it up.
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome. Again,
I think
West Virginia.
You're a skimmer.
I am a skimmer.
It's like that sign we passed downtown in St. Louis that says "Watch for exiting cars," and then I passed it and I said, "You would read that as watch for exciting cars."
Yeah.
And now we joke about it.
We do.
Because you skim things.
I do.
Which is fine. It's a good quality in other ways.
I don't think so.
Taking information really fast.
Well, yeah, but then you're not always
detail oriented.
Well, you're not always getting the information that's on the page. You're creating something that's not there. Basically. Yeah, because you're rushing. Yeah.
That's okay. Sorry, I got us off track.
All right, so Mesopotamia. And we looked at it during the rise of the city-states. We specifically looked at the city-state of Uruk, where the first form of writing emerged, called cuneiform. Just as a quick reminder, Mesopotamia was located in the area of modern-day Turkey, Iran, Syria, and Iraq. So that's the part of the world we're looking at. And so in episode 12, it was the culmination of our deep dive into the origins of the patriarchal systems. Using the book The Patriarchs, Origins of Our Inequality by Angela Saini as our guide, we looked back in history to see how early cultures handled gender and gender roles. In episode 5, we started our discussion of the origins of the patriarchy looking at the Paleolithic and Neolithic periods, otherwise known as the Old and New Stone Ages. We stayed in the Stone Ages in episode 9, and then moved into Copper and Bronze Ages in episode 12. What we discovered was evidence of some women being preeminent leaders, like the Ivory Lady of the Iberian Peninsula around 2800 BC. And then we also saw societies like Katahoyuk, roughly 7500 to 5200 BC, where gender appears not to have been a barrier to prominence and power, but rather age, where the elders of both genders were seemingly shown great deference. In Angela Saini's book, she lays out her case on the emergence of the city-state as the cornerstone for the origin of patriarchies. Women were expected to play a role in the city-state, to produce babies, to make workers and warriors for the city-state. Men's roles were also defined for the success of the ruling elite's city-state and eventual empire. The ruling elite needed armies and workers to allow them to amass wealth and power. Angela posits there are other factors to the emergence of patriarchal systems like religion and ideologies, but maintains the city-state is where the patriarchal system is clearly seen and from which other patriarchies grow. People are seen using other people to gain power and fortune, trapping the individual into a rigid class structure with women confined to certain roles. So, that was kind of our summary. In today's episode, we are going to do a deep dive into the very first empire, the Akkadian Empire, which emerged from the city-states of Mesopotamia. Yay! I was going to do a little disclaimer. So at the end of episode 12, we looked at 3 different female figures from the past. And I accidentally have already discussed a woman from the Akkadian Empire. But we actually are going to cover Enheduanna. Enheduanna. I think that's how you say it.
So you're making stuff up now?
No. But we're going to actually talk about her at the end. Again. I found more information about her, and it fits perfectly into this discussion. So,
Perfectly.
perfectly.
Okay, we'll
Yes.
see. Let's see.
All right. So the questions that we always want to try to answer when we're doing this.
Are you still awake?
Hello, is anybody there?
Do you have a pulse?
Is your bed comfortable?
Have you lost all hope? Are you feeling despair?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, next time we'll have to do our pathways of healing on like sleep.
Historical.
It'd be like how to sleep, and then it'll just be me reading a book about history. Yeah. Okay, so the question. All right, so in this current series, we will always seek to understand the origin of the civilization we're focusing on, the history, the major events, the location, the time frame, and we will also seek to answer these 2 questions. What were women allowed to do, and how were women being treated? From there, we can compare it to our current society, and as we move through one ancient civilization to another, we will have to keep track of the changes that have been made from the Neolithic, the New Stone Age, to whatever society we're exploring.
Okay.
Now, this is my very quick, where I got my sources. The World History Encyclopedia at worldhistory.org, a giant book published by DK and the Smithsonian called History from the Dawn of Civilization to the Present Day. And then as we go through this, I will give other sources. Okay.
I personally can't wait.
Yes. Thrilling. Okay, so the history of the Akkadian Empire. So, the many city-states of Mesopotamia were eventually conquered by a man named Sargon the Great. He and his sons after him expanded this empire to include not just the city-states of Sumer, but all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. This empire consisted of territory from modern-day Kuwait, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Turkey, Jordan, and Cyprus, and possibly including Crete. The Akkadian Empire began around 2300 BC and lasted until 2150 BC. This would be considered still part of the Bronze Age, which is where we were at episode 12 as well. Yes, Cara, you look like you're about ready to burst with laughter.
No, I was wondering where that... I was trying to put together what Sargon the Great reminded me of, and it reminds me of that Calgon, Take Me Away. It was like a soap, or like a... Do you remember that?
No. Like a soap opera?
No.
Oh.
A product.
Oh.
You don't remember it?
I don't. I'm so
It's
sorry.
a body spray.
Oh my, like Axe.
Calgon, Take Me Away was like the it was the headline or the commercial.
Oh.
slogan.
Well, maybe they got it from Sargon.
He's famous.
Sargon, take me away with your delightfully smelling soap.
That's body spray, apparently.
Body spray.
Your scent.
Let me smell your scent, Sargon.
Gross.
Anyway, okay, moving on. All right, so this empire was ruled by, we already read that. It's Sargon the Great. The Akkadian for Sargon apparently is, I'm going to mispronounce this, Sharukin, which means true kin or true king or legitimate king.
Uh-huh.
All right, so Sargon was unknown to the modern world until the late 1800s, when inscriptions and texts about him were found in the library of Ashurbanipal at Nineveh, which is the oldest known systematically organized library in the world from the 7th century BC. So Nineveh, that's like something you hear in the Bible.
Yep.
That's what like Jonah and the whale or something, I think, right? Yeah, okay. All right, moving on. One of the texts found at the library was called The Legend of Sargon of Akkad. Given it's a legend, we don't actually know how reliable it is. Nevertheless, the legend tells...
Not all legends are true? What?
The legend of Cara,
Okay, no.
the Conqueror.
That'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
That's
You're like,
true.
that's a history I want to read about.
No, that one's true.
That was true. Yep.
Okay, keep going.
All right. Okay. So this legend tells of Sargon coming from lowly beginnings. His mother, being a priestess, could not keep him as her child because of her religious position. So she put him in a basket and sent him down the river. It sounds a lot like the Moses concept, the Moses story
It does.
from the Bible. All right. So a man named Akai found him and then raised him as his son. How would you pronounce this? Akki. That's his name. Akai? Aki.
Probably, I don't know. I would say Kai, but I don't know.
Akai.
I have no idea
We're going to call him Akai.
what the
They know how to
origin-
spell it at least, so
Yeah.
they could look it up later. Okay.
No, you can spell it.
So Akai was a gardener for the king of Kish, Ur-Zubaba. And Kish was one of those Sumerian city-states that we talked about. Sargon gradually rose in prominence in the court of the king, becoming his cupbearer. And some
What's a
scholars...
cupbearer?
So it's basically some scholars think that it's the person who was... who's
Next
second in
one.
command. Oh, look, Ashley Hall's calling me. Yeah.
Nice. Wait,
Our first guest. Yeah, go ahead.
So like second in command would assume the throne if something happened.
Basically, that's what scholars are thinking cupbearer was. And they're basing that off of how a cupbearer behaved in Assyria, which is this a later empire.
Sounds more like a maid role. Bringing drinks.
Sir, would you like your cup, sir?
No, every time you say something, it's an accent.
I know, I'm sorry. That's like, I was thinking like Oliver Twist. Like, here's some more. Anyway.
What's happening?
I don't know. Okay, so, all right, so we keep getting off from our story. King Ur-Zubaba, he was the king of Kish. And so Sargon is his cupbearer, his second in command.
Okay.
All right, the legend continues that Sargon eventually had a trust issue. Let me back up. He had the trust of King Ur-Zubaba first, but at some point that faltered, and we don't know the reason why.
He's probably got borderline personality disorder or something.
He probably is a clinical narcissist.
He's like, you breathed wrong. I don't trust you.
Yeah, I didn't like the way that one hair laid on your brow.
Yep.
That was it. Yep. That was all it took.
Trust.
Yeah.
Ruined.
All right, so when a neighboring king decided to try to overtake the city-state of Kish, King Ur-Zubaba actually betrayed Sargon. This other king's name was Lugol-Zagizi of Umma, the city-state. And so as this king's army was marching toward Kish to overtake it, King Ur-Zubaba sent Sargon out to meet him with a supposed offering of peace.
Oh, I don't believe that.
All right. So instead of an offering of peace, he was carrying a message that told Lugal-Zagizi to kill Sargon.
I'm shocked.
I know. What? Betrayal.
I can't believe it.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
No.
You don't need to finish.
Okay, so this new king, King Lugal-Zagizi, he decided not to kill Sargon, but instead invited him to join his ranks, and then they went together and they conquered the city of Kish.
So you think that there was some? He said join his ranks. Does that mean one of them gets to take lead? Doesn't seem like something Sargon would allow.
Well, he joined him. Okay, so I'm gonna
just like two forces.
Yeah.
Same,
so I'm gonna guess.
Mind the same goal.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess what happened was the message was read.
Yeah.
The king did not kill Sargon. The king told Sargon that the other king betrayed him, and so Sargon decided to join forces with him to conquer Kish.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's my guess of what happened. What went down? The down low.
Same goal.
Historical down low. Down low. Okay.
Nope. there you go again.
What?
There you go again with your accent.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know how to live without accents, Cara.
I know.
Yeah, it's a problem. Okay. I'll have to go to Accents Anonymous. A little AA for me.
I'll make you an appointment.
Thank you.
You gotta
All
go
right.
now. You should go now.
I should go now. Okay. So, the king Ur-Zubaba from Kish, he went into hiding and fled. Okay, so at this point, there are many versions of what happens next, but there is eventually a falling out between this new king, Lugal-Zagizi, and Sargon. Some legends say it was because Sargon had an affair with the wife of Lugal-Zagizi, and others say it was because Sargon went out on his own to conquer more territory.
Or both.
Or both. But, okay, so nevertheless, Sargon and Lugal-Zagizi become enemies. And as Sargon goes out to conquer the city-state of Uruk, Lugal-Zagizi tries to stop him. Sargon defeats Lugal-Zagizi, it's kind of hard to say, and captures him, making him march through the city of Nippur in chains.
Okay.
Dun dun dun. Sargon then declares himself king and chooses for himself the goddess of Ishtar as his spiritual protector. And this was sort of interesting. So Sargon chooses a female goddess as his spiritual protector. I guess this is something they do in this time period. And the Lugal-Zagizi, his spiritual protector was a male deity, a male god named Enlil. Yeah. It sort of reminds me of names from, like, Superman.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe not.
Clark Kent?
No. No, like, Zael. Wasn't that his name?
I don't know.
Like, his name from Krypton?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I don't. You know me. I don't watch a lot.
I don't know. He had some name that sounded sort of like that.
Fantasy movies.
Okay. All right. So after this point, he defeats this king, and then he goes on to conquer all the city-states of Sumer, and then eventually starts to expand his empire. All right. So what is the difference between the city-states that Angela Saini describes as the origin point of patriarchies and this first empire? So the difference between a city-state and an empire. And it's basically size and a centralized power structure. Control over more land and more people by a ruler. A city-state would be a self-governing political entity encompassing just that city and its surrounding territory. Whereas the empire would be a vast political entity and would control varied and vast territory with many cities under its control. Most often with one ruler, it is a consolidated power structure with this one entity controlling diverse populations and areas of the ruler's own personal... And areas? Oh, yeah, I read that.
Areas for the ruler.
An area, yeah. And so all this territory and population is for the ruler's own personal wealth, power, and status. Yeah. The people don't matter other than to provide for the ruler what he wants. Warriors, food, exports, more people, and money through taxation. It's funny, I wrote this and I can't even read it. It's sad. Okay. All right, so we are coming to those two questions. So in all of this, where are women? What are women doing? We've heard all this talk about this one dude. And so what's happening with women? All right. To help us answer these questions, I'm going to use an article from the World History Encyclopedia. I was tempted to use an accent there and I didn't.
I know. Well, quasi.
Yeah, I almost did.
Quasi.
All right. So this article is entitled Women in Ancient Mesopotamia by Joshua J. Mark. And I'm going to read from this. Unless, Cara, would you like to read from this?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay, I will be reading
Unless
from this
you want
article.
Me to.
I just wanted to give you an opportunity. You don't have to read all of it. You want to read the first paragraph?
Okay,
Okay.
I guess. The lives of women in ancient Mesopotamia cannot be characterized as easily as other civilizations owing to the different cultures over time. Generally speaking, though, Mesopotamian women had significant rights, could own business, buy land and sell land, live on their own, initiate divorce, and though officially secondary to men, found ways to assert their autonomy.
Scholars generally agree that women had the greatest freedoms in the early stages of Mesopotamian cultural development, from the Uruk period through the early dynastic period, prior to the rise of Sargon of Akkad. So through those city-states, there was more freedom for them.
Until he came about, yeah?
Yeah. And then it's noted, though, however, that Sargon chose a female deity, Ishtar, or Inanna, that's, I guess, the same deity with different names, as his protector. And we're going to learn about this next part. Installed his daughter, Enheduanna, as high priestess of Ur. And records indicate that women still had many of the same rights as before. So it was different, but yeah. Okay, so this sounds like women are doing better than we will see later in later empires. However, there are very rigid class structures in place, and women in lower class have no real rights, while women in the upper class will have all rights available to women in that empire. And I wanted to draw attention, though, to one phrase from that article. It said, though officially secondary to men, right? So there's already this gender position. Men are above women. Women do have rights, but they are secondary to men. And so what we're seeing in this empire is a patriarchal system that, again, began to be established in the city-states which were conquered by this empire. All right. I was going to then read a little bit from a book called Women's Writings of Ancient Mesopotamia, and it was edited and translated by Charles Halton and Sana Svard, and it was published by Cambridge Press. And they're basically going to write about, we're going to hear about these different class structures and how they impacted women. Okay, so here's a quote. On the whole, Mesopotamian society was divided into roughly 3 social classes: free, semi-free, and slaves. On one end of the continuum, the free women, or elite women, were often mistresses of large households with servants and considerable economic responsibilities. On the other end were slaves. Slaves were owned by palaces, temples, and wealthy households. Throughout Mesopotamian history, a varying percentage of the population was slaves. Some slaves were former free citizens who were forced into slavery by debts. Some were war captives. A woman could be sold into slavery by her family, usually father or brothers, or even her husband. Isn't that nuts? That's nuts.
I mean, sounds
Nuts.
Sounds like every other historical period I've ever read about.
I know. Okay. Another form of servitude was the pledging system, in which a family member or a slave could be given to someone as a servant for a fixed term as surety against a loan. If the borrower defaulted on the loan, the pledged person would then become the property of the individual providing the loan. In between elite women and female slaves, there was a class of semi-free or subordinate people in Mesopotamia, traditionally called Muskinum in the law codes. Scholars have had some difficulties placing this class in society outside the framework of the law codes. Apparently, they were tied to their own masters, their owners of the land that they cultivated, but they were definitely not slaves. Very little is known about the lives of slave women or the women of the Muskunum class, the semi-free class, since written evidence mostly deals with the affairs of the wealthy. One needed resources to learn how to read and write, or even to hire a scribe. Therefore, their voices are rarely preserved within the texts from Mesopotamia. Poor and slave women mainly appear within texts only as objects of trade. Now, the first article that I read from the World History Encyclopedia, that article actually mentions 5 classes for people. And the 5 classes that Joshua J. Mark proposed were starting with nobility, and then clergy, then upper class, lower class, and slaves. And so I think the top 3 classes he distinguishes here, nobility, clergy, upper class, those would basically be that first class of elite people, elite women. they would fall into that category. And then you have the lower class, which is probably that semi-free class.
That's
and
obvious.
then slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm being thorough.
Okay.
Thorough. Crossing my I's and dotting my T's.
No, let's not.
Okay.
That's obvious.
All right. So I was just going to summarize. So what we see here is another oppressive system at work alongside the patriarchal system, and that is classism. We see power imbalances, economic exploitation, social exclusion, and barriers that are almost impossible to overcome. Combine that with the patriarchal system, and all women, but especially those in the lower classes, will be oppressed. As we will see in our study of ancient civilizations up to Rome and Greece, these systems will continue to exert more oppression on women. And then a summary quote. I'm taking this from the book that we relied on a lot in our previous episodes on history, Angela Saini's book. And if you have the paperback, this is on page 118. And she writes, if the old notion about all males being naturally dominant over all females is put to one side for a moment, what else could explain the changing pattern of gender relations in a region like ancient Mesopotamia? One answer might be that power was sweepingly taken away from all women, and that categorization by the state was the tool by which women were both classed and systematically disenfranchised. By gradually introducing broad rules and laws, an entire group of people and all their individual complexity could be effectively pushed to the margins and suppressed.
What's that layman's terms?
Basically, she's saying if you put away this like stupid notion that men are naturally better and dominant over women, which history through our just looking at the New and the Old Stone Ages, we see that women were actually leaders and all this stuff. If you put that to the side, then you can how did this happen? And basically, how did women become this second-class citizen? And she's saying that it's because the state enforced these roles onto women and codified it, that's not the right word, made it law.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So they had to serve these very specific roles.
Right.
So I like that better than reading.
I'm sorry. I just thought it was so well spoken.
It's boring. I actually said it better.
We explained it better. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, it's just layman's terms. I don't know.
I think some of the reason
the categorization of the state was the tool by which that's boring.
I love it.
Oh god.
It speaks to my soul.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
I do like it.
Why? Explain.
I feel like it makes it make sense to me.
Better than what you said in like English.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean I understand what you're saying. I do. I think honestly part of the reason why I end up reading articles sometimes is because the level of research and time it takes me to write it out in my own words is extensive. And so sometimes I just want to put a quote in and then I can summarize it after I'm reading it.
Why not just summarize it?
But that's what I mean. I have to sit and summarize it. I mean, I guess I could try to start, doing things on the fly more.
I like that.
You're like that. That.
Because reading the quote is not how you would talk to somebody. If you were explaining this to someone, it's not how you would do it.
No.
It's not how you and I talk about stuff, issues.
True. But I like it. I like reading it.
No.
I do like it. I liked reading this.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway. I still think kudos to Angela.
I'm not saying it's not
Cheers,
a
Angela.
well-done book. I'm not saying that.
I know. I know you're saying it's better for the podcast. I understand what you're saying.
I doubt even Angela would say it like that if she was speaking to another person.
No, she wouldn't. She wouldn't read from a book. She wrote it. She knows it. Backwards and forwards. She can talk about that. Zoom, zoom. She can do it all.
Yeah.
Me, most of the time I have a trombone on my face.
True.
So. Anyway.
That's true.
Yeah.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information to consume.
It is, yeah. And I just trying to make it orderly and make sense and all that stuff. So, yeah. Okay.
Sense.
Let's see. What else was I was going to say? In the final episode of our series, The Origin of the Patriarchy, we looked at several prominent women from Mesopotamia. Okay, so and this is the disclaimer from the beginning, where I accidentally focused on a lady from the Akkadian Empire. But I still feel like, though, I want to talk about her again now that she's in the proper time frame. And so this woman we're going to talk about, she fits into that upper class, the elite class. She's actually in the nobility class and will also become in the clergy class. All right, so this is actually Sargon the Great's daughter. Enheduanna. Enheduanna. You want to try it?
No.
No. Lucas like easy. No. Sargon. Okay. Enheduanna. All right. So this is also an article. I'm going to try to paraphrase to not read this article. How about that, Cara? I will look at this and I will extract information from it while we go. Okay. So this article, if you would like to read it in its entirety, is also from the World History Encyclopedia on worldhistory.org by Joshua J. Mark, and it's called Enheduanna. So it's her name. So Enheduanna was an Akkadian poet, and she lived somewhere between 2285 and 2250 BC. And she's actually known as the first author that is known by her name, by a name. So the first named author in history. And Sargon placed a lot of trust in Enheduanna, and he elevated her to a position of high priestess of the most important temple in Sumer in the city of Ur. And it left her with the responsibility to try to come up with a religious system that included the Sumerian gods and the Akkadian gods into something that would help stabilize his empire. And she created and is credited with creating poetry, psalms, prayers throughout, and these poems and psalms and the way she wrote them, they impacted how other people would write in the ancient world as well. So it was very influential, these writings. And she, so through her written work, she changed the nature of Mesopotamian gods and the perception that people would have of the deities in general. Her name translates to High Priestess of An, and An was supposedly a sky god. And so the Priestess of An, or the wife of Nana. and Enheduanna, she came from a northern city of Akkad. Nana. Yeah. So, Enheduanna organized and presided over the city's temple complex, which was the heart of the city. And at some point, there was a coup where they tried to remove her, and this was done by a Sumerian rebel called Lugo-An. Lugo-Ani? Lugo-An.
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Okay. And she was forced into exile. And at some point, it got better. Like, she came back into power. This other dude was, I'm guessing it's a dude. It could be a woman. Lugo-An. I don't know. I don't know the gender. And she came back. And so this is kind of interesting. We actually have her words. So these words are coming from like over 4,200 years ago. And so this is one of her, this is a plea from the goddess to the goddess of Inanna, requesting help to petition the god of An for help. So this is her writing. And she wrote, Enheduanna, funeral offerings were brought as if I had never lived there. I approached the light, but the light scorched me. I approached the shade, but I was covered with a storm. My honeyed mouth became scummed. Tell An about Lugo-An and my fate. May An undo it for me. As soon as you tell An about it, An will release me. So this is just a random like spot for her. You know, this made me laugh a little bit. So Cara, for our podcast listeners, you know we're both brass players. I play trombone, Cara plays horn. And we've been using, sometimes, Cara especially, has been using honey on her lips to help with chapped lips.
Humectant.
Yeah. And so anyway, my honeyed mouth became scummed. In this scenario, it sounds bad, but...
That's such a gross way to put it.
Scummed.
It does work. Put honey on your lips 20 minutes intermittently throughout the day. Definitely works for chapped lips. When my lips get on the verge of really badly chapping.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Mm-hmm. Apparently, a Hedjuana knew.
Probably a lot of people know that, but
Yeah.
I like doing it.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to read that just because, I mean, it's interesting the fact that you're reading a woman's words from 4,200 years ago. That's kind of cool. Cara's not moved.
Well,
Go on.
I don't know. Maybe
Okay.
someone will read my lips. My words.
Read my lips.
Read my words.
No new taxes.
Years from now, too.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh my God, I should try honey on my lips.
You think people did that back then?
Whoa. Who knew?
That's weird. What are bees?
What are bees? They're extinct.
Honey.
Oh, what is honey? It's all gone. Everything's gone. Jeez. What's an iceberg? Yeah. So sad. Okay. I'm going to finish this really quickly. So she was known for some big works like called the Great-Hearted Mistress, the Exaltation of Inanna, the goddess of fearsome powers. And all three were powerful hymns to the goddess Inanna. And later, this goddess apparently was known as Ishtar, which actually, so this is the same goddess that was chosen by Sargon the Great as his protector. And then the Hittite knew this goddess Saska, and the Greeks Aphrodite, and the Phoenicians
I thought it was Aphrodite.
Astarte.
I thought it was Aphrodite.
Well, this looks like Aphrodite. Oh, Aphrodite.
Good God.
Aphrodite, yeah. Whatever. Okay, so this next name, the Phoenician god, it looks like Astarte. It looks like Astarte, legit.
It's like
Astarte.
Arrested Development.
A start. Exactly. It's like a new start. Anus tart. I got you.
And then anal rapist.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That was so wrong.
Okay. All right. So this creation, how she envisioned this god would go on to impact the mythology of other civilizations after her. All right. We're going to skip around a little bit more.
I'm sorry, that one always gets me.
So this, if you want to read more about her poetry, there are other examples of her poetry in this article. Yeah. Let's see. The last thing I was going to read, I'm going to read this. So in 1927, the British archaeologist Sir Leonard Woolley found the now famous Enheduanna calcite disc in his excavations at the Sumerian site of Ur. The three inscriptions on the disc identified the four figures depicted: Enheduanna, her estate manager Ada, her hairdresser Ilum Palilis, and her scribe Sagadu. Okay. The royal inscription on the disc reads, Enheduanna, Zur priestess, wife of the god Nana, daughter of Sargon, king of the world, in the temple of the goddess Inanna. And the figure of Enheduanna is placed prominently on the disc, emphasizing her importance in relation to the others, and further, her position of great power and influence on the culture of her time. The end.
I was
Yay.
trying to find where you're at.
Oh. It was after Anus Tart.
Clearly.
It was after Anus Tart.
Are we at where it says end of article?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You skipped a lot. It was good. Or
I know. I did you a favor, Cara. Yeah, I was trying to,
Must be my birthday.
It's your birthday, Cara. It's not. It's not. Yeah. Don't get too excited. Next time I'm going to read the article. Just kidding. I won't. Well, I might.
Worst birthday I ever had was when I got poison ivy. That was right around my birthday.
Oh, I forgot.
Yep.
I think the best birthday.
Worst birthday ever. And pandemic.
Aw. I had the best birthday ever once when I was a kid. It was kind of a couple stories.
Best birthdays ever.
I'm sorry. But, I got to balance it out. You went with worst, I'm going with best.
Per usual.
Yeah. So my best birthday was on my birthday. It was in the late 90s, somewhere in the 90s. We, in my hometown, got 3 feet of snow in about 2 days. And so I had snow days for an entire week. I was off from school. I actually went from my cousin's house to my house using a snowmobile because there was so much snow. It was very
that the
exciting.
week they were meant to teach you about Aphrodite?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah. And also how to pronounce words properly, how to see a word, find its syllables, know how to put them in order with
you're
the
an
proper.
excellent sledder. So
Yeah. Yeah. I missed that week, clearly. That was also the week I ate an entire pan of lemon bars and threw up.
was it really your birthday? Was that your birthday?
That was my birthday week, yeah.
Just happened to coincide.
Just happened. I mean, I had all that time on my hands. The snow. Yeah, and somehow I remember, I don't think it was an entire pan. I think it was like half a pan. It was a lot. And still to this day, I'm amazed that I don't have an issue with lemon or like lemon desserts.
That happened to me when it was my brother or sister's birthday party, but we had Kool-Aid, which we didn't usually get, and I drank a lot of Kool-Aid, and there was a red stain on my parents' carpet for years after.
That's Cara. Can't control herself.
Kool-Aid. Overdosed on Kool-Aid.
Yeah. I don't remember a yellow stain anywhere. There's no lemon bar stain.
Citrus stain.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. All right. So this is the end of this episode. I was going to say.
That's why you have GERD.
It's probably why. All that citric acid, it destroyed my esophagus early. Yeah. All right, so this ends our deep dive into the Akkadian Empire, and we learned about its founding, its ruler, its location, its time, and we also learned about how women were being treated in this empire. I want to say thank you so much for sticking with me today, even though I know that people consider this boring sometimes, like Cara.
I have to stick with it.
I'm
Just
sorry,
kidding.
Cara. I'm sorry.
Look, once again, I find it interesting and pertinent. I just prefer bullet point. That's all.
I hear you.
I know.
I will try to be better. I will try to be better.
I liked what you did today with the sort of speaking off the cuff about it. But also I understand, I see how much research you put into this. I know it's hard and I know it's time consuming. So
Tis.
it's not that I don't appreciate that. And I know that it's what do you call that? It's a
Labor of love.
labor of love.
Yeah.
Because, you do study on end for these things, and you read some of those most boring books I've ever laid eyes on.
Yeah.
But you love it. You love it. We all bring things to the world. We
do.
all have different strengths, different interests, which is good.
Otherwise, the world would be pretty boring.
Be very one-dimensional.
Yeah. Just
One
little
track.
cookie cutters.
Yeah.
We are snowflakes, Cara. All
That's
unique
right.
and wonderful. Beautiful. Glistening in the glory of life.
My turn to encapsulate what you just said. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying I'm more negative. I wouldn't have said it.
You're like, we are all brown turds of life. Stinky. And then we die.
Headed toward
From Cara.
the compost pile of life.
Oh, no.
You're like, what? But it's so beautiful.
I would say we are all seeds with great potential, planted and soiled to bloom and grow.
And some would say you're high.
And then, unfortunately, we do perish, but we become the ground from which others too will grow.
I mean, I could see like being planted as when I die, having my ashes put in the soil and growing a fruit tree people can eat from. You're like, I don't want that fruit.
I don't know. Huh. What's that really stinky fruit? Is that monk fruit?
Wow. You're like,
I
you
think-
gonna grow some durian?
Durian, that's it. Durian fruit. Oh, no.
How does
Yeah.
durian grow? Does it grow out of like a plant?
Isn't it a tree?
I have no idea. That's
What's
why
it
I'm
look
asking.
like?
Well, I know what durian fruit looks like, but I'm curious how it grows. So I don't know how it grows.
Oh, well, what's it look like?
Like if it grows on a bush or.
How big is it?
It looks sort of like a yellow,
Like a melon?
melon-ish thing. Yeah.
Kind of like, does it look like papaya? Like it's that long shape?
I don't. I've not honestly never had one in person or seen one in person. I've only seen them online.
What's the one that's really spiky? You at the grocery store. It's big and it has spikes and it's like sort of greenish.
That's what is that thing called? It's not dragon fruit, is it?
No, that one's like really cool shaped, like pink and green.
Well, this says tropical fruit grows in Southeast Asia and other regions, grown in orchards and in the wild. Okay, so this looks like durian has spikes on it.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's what that is.
And I've seen this one actually looks green, and I don't know if that's the ripeness of it.
Yeah.
I don't think we sell those at the grocery store. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
This how to grow durian. This says tree. How can durian trees grow? Yeah, I guess trees. Trees.
There you go. All right, we should stop.
They're grown over like a cemetery, and that's why they taste bad.
Oh, could be. That could be it. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to do more research.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, want to say thank you for sticking with me again. Hoping that I'm not the voice that's droning and you're sleeping. But if you are, hey, I hope you're sleeping well. Thank you for joining us. Please join us next week. We are going to actually have another episode in the Pathways of Healing, and we're going to focus on a therapy called EMDR with a licensed therapist. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.